All right, welcome to the Redacted Podcast. I'm your host, John. I'm here with my buddy Tim.
Hello.
We're going to be talking about a little bit of news, a little bit of philosophy. So let's jump right in.
You go first.
Afghanistan. Afghanistan. What pops into your head when you think of Afghanistan, Tim? What's the first thing?
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, that's
No,
fair.
I don't care what anyone says because that's the correct response. And do you know why?
Why?
Praise God.
Yeah, kill infidels.
FN fight me, regressives.
Um, so everybody knows Afghanistan is fucking falling apart.
Uh-huh.
It pretty much disintegrated overnight after the U.S. military left. So you want me to just summarize it linearly, real quick, like I did before?
Yeah, pretty much like you did before.
Okay, so this is like what I heard in a linear events timeline here. So overnight, U.S. military disappeared from Afghanistan without warning. Then I hear that basically the other countries like Australia and Britain, they're scrambling to get out of there because they're like, oh shit, okay, the U.S. military left us. The Taliban is moving in. They're coming into the city. Pretty much moments later, I hear about two B-52 bombers heading to a U.S. Air Force base filled with helicopters and jets and stuff that they apparently forgot. And we're going to go just blow it up. People were mentioning that that's kind of weird. Like, why broadcast your movements over Twitter when the Taliban have anti-air? Okay, it's kind of odd. So everyone's scrambling, and apparently the U.S. embassy still is full of people, and there's no military to protect them. This kind of goes into the fact that the news is so unreliable that a lot of this stuff that I've been hearing is conflicting. Because then I hear, but the military is in Afghanistan guarding the airport from people that are trying to jump on planes and leave. So apparently, some military is still there. Um, then
Are you going into like theory now, or are you still
no,
just
still going through the
recounting?
timeline. Because then surprise,
Okay, continue,
surprise,
continue.
surprise, surprise, the B-52 bombers got shot down. Then next thing you hear, Taliban president leaves. Everyone's evacuating. The Taliban is going into banks and businesses, and they're basically taking the women out and escorting them home, and saying that you don't have to work there anymore. You're going to be replaced by men at all of your jobs. They're instituting Sharia law like right away. Um, then I hear from somebody that apparently that started getting violent and the Taliban were like beheading people. And I also read that they were saying that they're going to push walls onto gay people. That was like a thing they were going to do. The
I remember
Taliban
that.
courts, yeah, the courts were saying this. The whole thing is a shit show. I don't think the people have been comparing it to like the fall of Saigon, and there was also this there was like a kidnapping crisis, right, where like a whole school bus of schoolgirls got kidnapped. You remember that fiasco? There's like 12 of them.
Mhm.
So people are getting taken hostage. It's just falling apart, and sort of like a little bit of dollop of cream on the top is that the Biden administration is shifting the blame, saying that their hands were tied because of the previous administration. And it's weird to me because I was getting into this, sort of discussing this with Trav earlier, where I was saying that, yes, so Trump wanted to take troops before. He wanted to take troops out of the Middle East. And the U.S. military lied to him and basically told him the wrong number of troops. So they took some of them out, but kept a bunch in. So it was like, ha ha. And the media laughed at that. They were like, ha ha ha, Trump's so dumb. The military, they lied to him, which is great. And now we still have troops protecting oil fields. So that's dandy. And then the Biden administration comes in and really does pull them all out. And then then it's like Trump's fault that everything's going to shit. Um,
John, I would have to stop you for a second and go. I haven't interrupted you because everything you said is true, but I do realize that some people may not believe you, and while we still have our main audience, we got to convince other people as well. What I would do is put up a source of what you're talking about, because I know what you're talking about, but when people think of Trump, they think negative, and we got to show them media's lying about that.
yeah, I'm gonna be throwing up a ton of sources onto the screen here, basically through the timeline, and then what I'm talking about here with the past with Trump. But I was thinking, what is it bad that we're pulling out of Afghanistan? Right? Is the Democratic Party really actually so blatantly the party of war that they're like, why would you pull your troops out of the U.S. troops out of Afghanistan, Biden? Why would you do this? That's the country's going to shit after pulling troops out. But is that Biden's fault? You know what I mean?
No, absolutely not. There is a bigger question. If
Mm-hmm.
we're not fighting Afghanistan anymore, where are we putting that money?
I saw a theory online that they were basically saying that the money that's being put towards foreign wars is going to be turned inward towards this, because everything in the media is emphasizing homegrown terror lately. I'm sure you've noticed that, saying that the true threat to American democracy is not anything in the Middle East, but actually homegrown terrorism.
I'm only going to believe that, and I'm going to be adamant, and I hope I can stay adamant to this because if I can't, that means I'll see something that'll convince me, and that's worse. That means really bad future really fast. And what I was going to say was that if Kamala becomes the next president, then I can completely believe what you're saying. And people out there may not believe, oh, why is he so upset about Kamala? Kamala should be celebrated. Listen, I don't understand how people can be so fuck. You can't tell how mad I am right now, and I'm gonna have to censor myself because I'm actually really mad. There's things where I get mad, and there are things where I just get. How do you look at a president and say, look at her vagina, she's a great leader? How can you say that and at the same time say that I don't know how to explain this, and I need to explain this very well. Give me one second. How can you say that and that the gender should be equal? You can't. If a president becomes better because of their fucking wee wee, then you're immediately creating an unequal opportunity. No, you can't use that. That's a terrible excuse. Because you either need to look at everything equally and go, "Oh, Kamala Harris is a president. I guess she's a new president." Or you go, "Oh, Kamala Harris is the president. It's great that we have a female leader, but you can no longer say that women need to be equal." Because when you start playing favorites, I, I I don't know how to say this, but when you start playing broad favorites like that, it's no different from slavery. It's no different from white supremacy. It's just no different. And I'll explain one common similarity between all of them. They're very different in many ways, but there's one similarity. They just want to fuck over someone. That's my rant. Continue on. I'm sorry that took so long. That just infuriates me.
Yeah, so one of the working theories I had was around these B-52 bombers. And it's really weird that they would broadcast this over Twitter. The our government and the military are not known to be broadcasting their operations like in general, right? It takes like 30 years for shit to declassified, and suddenly they're like, yeah, we're just sending some bombers over there to get to this air base that, oh, by the way, has a shit ton of stuff on it that the Taliban would love to have. And then the bombers get shot down. It's no surprise. What I was thinking is that this like seems like a complete psyop, to basically condition people to not ask questions on why the Taliban's going to be flying around in U.S. Aircraft, helicopters, and maybe even jets and stuff. Right? I can't even imagine how one of them would be flying one of those. That's kind of hilarious to me. But I'm very suspicious because like the Taliban, what it has in the past has been heavily funded by the U.S. Right?
So now that we're going to conjecture, I would say I can't really say. I haven't really seen any evidence to or for otherwise. I'd be willing to believe it because, Trump has made deals as well with that country, I believe. It's either Iran or some uh geographically close country, Middle Eastern essentially. And how that relates is it all contributes to the Middle Eastern conflict. It's like putting a bomb in the US. It's the same concept. The point I'm trying to make here is, John, I've actually heard differently from coworkers, and I was informed of this conflict, obviously from the news somewhat, but I was more informed by a coworker and he actually has a different theory, and the lie is so slight but it changes everything, and it's just fascinating in that it's both fascinating and horrifying. It's like looking at the ass of Cthulhu. um he said that the Taliban doesn't have anti-air,
Really?
so to him this whole thing is a psyop.
That's interesting.
Yeah, see, but you believe they have anti-air.
Yeah, because I read that they not from a reputable source, but I read that they did have anti-air.
I hope this guy never watches the podcast, but I just realized something absolutely hilarious. It's good, but it's hilarious when you think about it. So he must view the Afghan people as absolute fucking savages that can't get their shit together. And I want to be like, he's wrong because they have anti-air, but he's like, John, is he really wrong? They do terrible things. They act like savages. Is he really wrong?
No, I mean he's completely right. I had a coworker who was from Afghanistan as well, and if we were talking about this was like way back when the refugee road trip crisis was going on, and he was
Mhm.
saying, I forget what I asked him, but I remember very vividly that when he was talking about immigration, he said, "Hell no, I don't want any of them here. Those people are crazy."
I would say that uh, there's political agendas in that because think about it this way, they're advocating for these refugees to come in, right?
Hmm.
What do the refugees have to trade in order to get in? Because these people are expecting a gift, right? Essentially. Right.
You're so
See
you're
what I'm trying to.
No, I think they're. I don't think they have any through thought on what happens when they get here. They just want them here now because it looks good on social media when you start screaming about them coming over.
Maybe this is due to
Th-
perception.
This
Maybe
is
it's due to
the
some,
this is the same this is the
you know.
same argument. I can give them the same argument that they talk about with abortion, where they're like, oh, when you're anti-abortion, they say, "Oh yeah, you care about the fetus, but once it's born, what are you gonna do? You're gonna let that baby starve, and you don't actually care about life once it's out of the womb." They don't care about refugees once they get here.
I would say both are lies, and I'd like to thoroughly and viciously debunk your argument. No, I'm kidding. No, I have some, I guess, counters to that. First one being they want them here because in return for them being here, they'll be granted more power.
How
Because once
so?
they get here, what can they do? What translatable skills can they apply from living in Afghanistan to America? They're gonna worry about that. I believe the progressives are going to use that word because they tend to use a person's own humanity against them, and that's
So what are you saying? You're
very
going to
interesting.
use them as like a fear pawn?
No, no, no. It's very simple, John. Now you have a bunch of people who are very grateful, who are very thankful for their democratic leadership,
That'll
and
blow up in
obviously,
their
if they're
faces.
thankful, grateful, they're gonna want it again.
I want to see the demographics on what immigrants immigrants from the Middle East how they vote. I have like a sneaking suspicion that they vote like overwhelmingly right.
So you're saying something about how the savagery. That's what I want to talk about, actually. Savagery, we can think of is in very simple terms. It's survival. People don't want to do something, but they'll become savage in order to get that thing, right? That's why they view it as noble. It's a mad grab for power. They view that in themselves, and that's why they view that as noble.
I don't see how bringing over 100,000 Afghanistanis is gonna give the Democrats power, though.
As I said before, it's along the lines of what they think. I'm not necessarily, the reason why I agree with you is I'm just telling you what they think. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen.
I don't know 100% if that's what they think, just because like I can't imagine them thinking that illogically. The ones in power who would have the ability to do that, I'm assuming have some actual like underlying evil plan.
Rashida Tlaib, Omar Elan seem to be very good candidates for this type of thing.
Marrying their brothers.
Look, man, you can't get between love. Uh, and let's be quite frank to Ilhan. She did assimilate. She ended up marrying some white guy.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if they're married yet. I'm pretty sure they're at least dating.
Is that condemnation against the whole assimilation thing when because we know that once the 100,000 Afghans come here, they're going to create some sort of ghetto and then never assimilate ever. But the most assimilated Muslim American amongst us is still some crazy, like anti-Semite radical.
Did you call Elon Omar sane? No, no, not at all, John. No. The difference between this assimilation, I would say, is it's only acting in the motions. It's not actually real assimilation when you think about it, John.
Oh man, this is a whole nother argument because like
Yeah,
I
yeah, all right, fine, fine. We'll move on because you know how deep I can get. All right, let's move on. Let's move
Okay,
on.
okay. I quickly wanted to talk about them shifting blame. U.S. officials now appealing to the Taliban to wait for the completion of the U.S. evacuation from Kabul, saying that doing so would increase the likelihood that both the international community and Afghans will accept the Taliban's entry into the capital. Wow. Um,
Repeat that last part again. I'm
you can
sorry.
you can read it. How spineless is that? Basically
Oh,
begging
oh
the
yeah, yeah,
Taliban
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about now.
asking for reason from the Taliban. Please let us leave before you ravage our embassy, and then the international community will look kindly upon you. Like goddamn, and then that's doubled on the top. So that's the administration releasing that. On top of that, also shifting the blame onto Trump. The absolute never-ending blame shift.
I picture a very specific human being, unfortunately, and that speaks bad on my part. But I have to say, do you remember Derek Chauvin?
Mm-hmm. The
I think
hero.
it was Derek Chauvin. Not entirely 100% sure, but there was this police and he was like kneeling or something or whatever. Honestly, it doesn't matter because the past is the past. What's important is one of his officers. One of the reporters took a picture of the entire scene, and there's this unfortunately, an Asian, essentially shaved head guy who was standing off to the side, looking really pathetic, just not doing anything. And that's what I see when I see the administration doing that. That same type of weakness, letting other people do something terrible just because.